You are listening to the podcast That's Life in Sweden, or as we say in Swedish, Sånt, livet i Sverige, with me, your host, Lisa Uusimäki. Hello and welcome to today's episode on special needs and inclusion. In particular, I welcome a beautiful colleague, Ann-Katrin Swärd, on the mobile, whose expertise is in the areas of inclusion and special needs. How are you, Ann-Katrin?
I'm good, thank you, Lisa, and I'm very happy to be invited to your discussion about these issues that are very, very important, as you said.
Yes, and I just feel very privileged that you allow some time to talk with me today. So let me start by asking you the question that I think, coming from a Swedish perspective, how or what is inclusion to you?
Okay, inclusion for me is actually when students, no matter what, if they are children in preschool or whatever, when they belong to a class, to a group, and they can participate in this group, most of the time, I will say, because it's also when teacher apply or adapt the teaching instruction and the material to all students' need, the different variation you can have in a group. So inclusion is actually, for me, not the same as you must be together all time as it can be for many other in this field. If you need individual support in another room, like when I work in the school, we have a study, literacy study, where children can come if they need to practice more on their phonics, for example, phoneme. Okay, that is only adapted teaching, and it's not exclusion for me. Sometimes you must look at the need every student have, and you must adapt to that. So many of my students, they love to come to me for some certain activity or teaching.
Mm-hmm. Now, the Swedish Constitution recognizes the equality and respect for the freedom and dignity of all individuals, and these are principles for the Swedish curriculum goals and objectives. But from your perspective, does Swedish schools meet these principles of equity and inclusion?
Even more today than during the 1780, because many students are invisible for teachers, or visible, but there are lack of resources and competence. You know, it's not only children in need of extra support, but also with other ethnic background or social, economic, problems. So due to my own experience from my own school time, actually here in Sweden, many teachers has always been more fond of students from families with higher status, not from us working class children. So if we talk about children in need of special support, there are same sort of exclusion of values actually. So if you look at children with dyslexia, for example, they have a more high status compared to children with other reading and writing difficulties. You know, the royal family have dyslexia, so it's really high status of that. Or children with other learning difficulties. So we don't have this equity, especially to students in need of extra support, or it could differ between what the difficulties is about and how strong parents the children must have to fight for their rights. So today I think we have a little bit of backlash in the Swedish school system.
So do you think then that the exclusion or marginalization, for example, or segregation of socially disadvantaged students, whether they're from ethnic minorities or Swedish, if you like, working backgrounds, do you think it has increased?
Yeah, I think so, because during the 2015 we had a tremendous amount of new immigrants incoming to Sweden, and I think the Swedish society they hadn't prepared for all these new people coming and living with us. We need them. We need all of them, because we're getting older and we need a lot of working force in many, many different places. If you look at the hospital in Sweden today, most of the staff, for example, have other ethnic backgrounds, or they are born in Sweden, but the parents came here. So I think, the government should have done much more to include them in the society than what they did, actually, because they started, we have especially suburbans with many, many people from other different parts around the world are living. And there you have also poverty, a lot of poverty today, like in many other countries, of course. But
Yes.
in Sweden, we have not been used with that before, because we had been quite an equal society for all people. But today it isn't like that anymore.
So, to be more specific, can you explain then equity, and especially its significance to students and children with special needs? The word equity, it's kind of, is it the same as equality, or?
No, it's actually equality is more that everybody shall have the same. But equity for me is that you should have what you need, not the same. If you need more, you should have more. So equality is about having the same amount of books or amount of money. But equity is that everyone shall have what the needs are about. So some will have more and other less.
So it's about individuality more.
Yeah, that's right.
So if we think about teacher education here in Sweden, I'd like you to share what are the requirements that are needed to work as a special needs teacher or special pedagogue here in Sweden, and the differences between a special needs teacher and the special pedagogue.
Okay, to enter the program, you must be some sort of teacher, and you must have been working at least for 3 years. So if you look at the special pedagogue program, there you have a lot of preschool teachers entering the program, and they are very clever in what young children, the smallest children, preschool children ages, what they need. But if you look at teacher in special needs education, as I have that type of graduation for a long time ago, before the Special Pedagogues program, before we had that, then you must have some sort of, you must be some sort of primary or secondary school teacher, because you need to have Swedish language or mathematics in your graduation. So this differs a lot, but also no matter what, you must have the graduation from another teacher program, and you must also be working for at least 3 years. And it's quite hard to enter the program. So many have worked for more than 10 years before they can enter. But then, sorry to say, then it's the principal that decide what type of employment you got, because principal, they don't really differ between these types of program. So if the principal need a teacher in special needs education that are going to work with reading and writing, for example, and they can't find anyone because there's a lack of them. There are many more teachers in special pedagogues. So then they employ a special pedagogue. And because special pedagogue programs are aimed to more work at the organizational level, not to work with the students. So there it can be some problem, because if you have a preschool graduation before and you have employment as a teacher in special needs education, you have no knowledge about reading and writing issues, and then you're going to support children in that field or mathematics or other. So of course that's a problem, but many of these teachers take the double. So we have many teachers that are both teachers in special needs education and also special pedagogue. So they have both.
Right. So what I'm hearing is that before you can even apply to the programs for a special needs teacher to be that's a graduate program, so it's a master program, isn't it?
Now in Sweden, sorry to say, it's a bachelor on the primary level, but if you go to the high school level, that's a master.
Oh, okay. So, but before you enter the programs, you need to have the teacher graduation. You need to be graduated as a teacher from from a teacher education program.
Yeah, and you need to have the certificate. In Sweden, we have certificate for a teacher nowadays.
Right.
We have had it for some years, yeah.
Right. And also, on top of that, you need to have the experience working in a classroom for 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
At least 3 years.
At least 3 years. Okay. So tell me about this special pedagogue. You say that you can be an early childhood teacher and you can enter the program. But what does it actually, so you talk about it's a teacher, or special pedagogue is someone who works with more the organizational of what exactly?
Of the school, close to the principal, and also in the group of the students' health with the nurses and psychologists and whatever. So they have others, so they don't go in and work individually with one child, but they can go to a class and they can do some observation to see what the teacher need for support.
So how are students with special needs identified? I'm just thinking about, if you don't have an understanding of the sort of special needs an individual child may need, whether it's relating to writing or mathematics, or even recognizing some of those issues such as dyslexia or ADHD. I mean, what happens? How do you identify children with special needs?
It depends on the course, but I think in general, the children have some difficulties to learn something in the classroom. For example, if we talk about a typical primary classroom with 20-25 kids, then the teacher discover that this child has problem to start to read and write, or other issue, whatever. It can also be about social skills, not only the topics. So then the teacher are obliged to talk to the parents, the caregiver, to discuss it with the caregiver. And then they also take it up in the team. You know, we always work in team in Sweden. We have meeting every week in the team with the other teachers that are close to my. And then we discuss this. And after that, we also have to adapt something in the classroom. That's the first step. The next step is that we go to the principal and say we need some special help, like a personal assistant or something, or classroom assistant or something. But the last step is also that the caregivers and we together say that this child must be identified in real, so there must be an investigation, like in medicine, psychology, sociology, and pedagogical, that they have to be investigated by different professionals that know about this, to discover what type of problem it can be. But then you can find that some caregivers, they say, no, we don't want to do that. And then the school have to solve the problem by personal assistant or something else. But one day you can see, the older the child the students get in the school, the harder it will be to learn something, the more the students will fail, and then perhaps the caregiver realize that this can't go. So then they do something, they make some type of tests, they do some tests to see what sort of problem this can be. So, but first step is the teacher and the caregiver, the parents must collaborate to find the best solutions.
So considering that there are a number of teachers who are not qualified to teach in a classroom, has that caused any issues, do you think?
Of course. Today we have a lot of schools in Sweden where we don't have these certificate teachers that have the knowledge they need to have. And of course, it's get a lot of problem, not at least for the children that need some extra support. And of course, the students would fail unless the principal do something extra about it. Because if you are a child that need extra support, you should have this as early as possible in the school system. Actually, already in preschool, we talk a lot about many children are discovered already in preschool to have some problem, and already there, the preschool teacher should have the knowledge to support the child.
So the preschool teacher, what age are we talking about? Can you recognize issues that may need some extra support for children?
Okay, already from, in Sweden we have a good preschool and we have a good parental leave insurance. So parents can be home for at least 1.5 years. 1 year with almost full salary and half year with less salary. But many children start a preschool from age 1, when they are 1 year old. And already, and then they continue today up to 6 years. 6 years you have preschool class, but from 2028, we will start a school at the age of 6 years. The government have changed the law now, this year. But then, the preschool teacher have a lot of competence to know about the typical development of a child. So if they see a child that can't, for example, they don't develop this verbal speech as good as they should at a certain age, they must start to do something about it, to give support, to talk to the parents or whatever. But sometimes the knowledge is not so good also in the preschool, so they fail also there.
Yes.
So the child continue to the school with a lot of problems that haven't been observed. The most common diagnosis we have in Swedish preschool is actually speech and language disability.
Mm-hmm. Now, there are special schools here in Sweden. So then I'm wondering, how is that inclusive of students with special needs? How are they different?
Actually, we have only about, you can say, not only 5, but if you look at the special topic they have, so we can say we have 5. We have only special schools where we have children for hearing impairment or deafness. And that is because in Sweden, the sign language are the first language for deaf children, and Swedish language are the second language. Okay.
Right.
So that's why we have kept those schools for hearing impairment and deafness. Then we have a school for severe speech and language impairment. And we have a school for a combination of blindness and deafness. There's very few children born with that, but we have some, perhaps 1 per year or something. And so if you look at these 3 types, blindness, deafness, and speech and language impairment, okay, then we have special schools if the parents wish them to be there. I have had children with quite severe hearing impairment also included in my classes with a lot of hearing equipment, and we have used a combination of spoken and also sign languages for those because the parents wish to have it like that. Otherwise, we also have special classes for students with intellectual disability, and most of these classes are placed in the mainstream school.
Right. Okay.
So we don't call it special schools when we talk about intellectual disability, because those schools we closed down for many years ago.
Right. Right.
But we still have them, and those children have the the same curriculum, but they have their own course plan.
You know, I just find it's really interesting because I understand that a lot of parents with children with hearing issues or deaf issues, they prefer their children in special needs schools.
Yes.
And is that still do you think that is still the case?
Yeah, more or less. It depends also if the children are deaf or severe hearing impairment. Then it's normal for them because they have all of them have also been in some type of classes or schools for deafness children. But if the parents are hearing, today they also try cochlear implant that they put, and sometimes it will be successful and other times not. It depends on, of course. So I think today we still have, you can visit those type of school like in Örebro or in Stockholm, or we also have in Lund, for example. So in Gothenburg we also have one school for children with hearing impairment. And I think that's up to the parents what they wish to do. And at Stockholm University, we also have a teacher program for deaf teacher.
You know, I'm just coming to my next question, which relate to thinking about teachers in the classroom, some of their challenges, including students with special needs in their classes. And if they don't have that particular knowledge, because I understand the teacher education program does not cover a lot of the special needs issues that individual students may come in to classes with.
No, that's correct. Sorry to say, the teacher program should be more updated in this field, because if you look in a classroom for 25 children, perhaps 5 of these children are in need of extra support. So there is a lot of challenges, of course. First of all, I think to adapt the teaching to fit all students in one classroom to everyone's individual needs. Of course, that's a challenge for the teacher.
Yes.
It's about material, it's about time, and also to work with social skills, actually, because many of these children with, for example, ADHD or autism or whatever, they also have a lot of social skills they need to develop, and to make each one feel safe and included is a real challenge for me as a class teacher. So I think one problem is that all children in the class or school already understand that if I have some certain students in my class that have some type of special needs, and we don't talk about it, they will be bullied, harassment. There's a lot of problems. So the best you as a teacher can do is to ask the parents to come to the class and tell them about the child, about their children's difficulties. I have done that many, many times, and it works very well. Or ask the parents if you can do that yourself, if they don't want to come. So that I also have done, because I think it's very bad in the teacher team if they keep it quiet. They don't talk about it because everybody knows. Everybody knows about it. The parents know. Everybody knows. So you can't pretend there is nothing. That's a real ground for harassment. I can just tell you one memory that came up now. One of my early students, she was bullied during the break time. She was a girl with autism, and it was in the first class. She was 7 years old. And she came to me after one break and she said, "Hey," she looked so very sad. So I asked what happened. "Oh, boys, they called me for a CP. And I asked her, "What do you think about that?" "No, I don't like it. But what is CP?" she asked, because she didn't know cerebral palsy. And then I told her what that was. And we also had a child in the school that had it, so I could say, like he. And then she said, "But I don't have that. I have autism." And then I told her, next time Next time the children tell you have CP, tell them that you have autism. And she did. Next time, there were a group of boys that bully her. So next time they did it, she told them, I don't have CP, I have autism. And they stopped to bully her. And I think you need to strengthen the child. You need to strengthen them to dare to talk about their own problem they have and to discuss it instead of hide it. And I think that many teachers should learn much more about this issue.
And that is, of course, the responsibility of teacher education programs.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now I assume you are familiar with the teacher education programs in Sweden. What do you think? I mean, I would imagine they would just talk about, oh, we got so much to cover, we don't have space for this. But I've also done a study years ago where actually pre-service teachers in particular wanted more study in special needs areas, but basically they're told there is no space for it.
Yeah, I think that's also stupid, because space you can create. Of course you can create space, and you also can. I have heard a lot of students in different students program, like preschool or primary school, and some of them also said that they have too much time for certain things that they have learned. They don't need more time about that issue, So I think the teacher program should be more updated. We have a lot of people working in the teacher program that have been working there for many, many years, and they are clever, of course. They have a lot of good competence, but perhaps it's many years since they were out in the school system. Yes. If they ever have been. I have a lot of colleagues at my university. They have never worked with children in a classroom. They have never taught children. So there's a lot of lack of that didactic knowledge. They are very good in theories and other things. But to be there, to see how it is today in a classroom, should be absolutely necessary for all that work in the teacher program. Because we have not much, except if we have special employment that includes supervised mentoring today. If you look at the supporting pre-service teaching, for example, but many teachers try to help as much as possible. But, in the school today in Sweden, there's a lack of resources and time, as you said. Time is very hard. And I think in many classes, a lot of time goes to just have the children to calm down, to stop conflicts between children, before they can start the lesson with the topic. So there's a lot of time that are spill out on other things that you shouldn't work with. So I think I don't know how much. We work in team also at the university level, but I don't know, I'm not sure about what type of discussion do we have in the teacher program about what is important today in the Swedish school system, where we can have classroom with 20 children and only 19 of them speak Swedish as their mother tongue. No, only one of the 20 have Swedish as the mother tongue. 19 have 19 different languages. We have more than 300 different languages in Sweden today. Arabic is the second biggest language. Finnish was it before, but Arabic passed it for a couple of years ago. So how can you, as a teacher, that you're going to teach in Swedish language, of course, we are in the Swedish school system, but how can you control that all these 19 children with different languages, how can you control that they also understand what you are saying?
What a challenge.
What a challenge you have, yes. And then you also meet the parents. They have not learned Swedish language yet. They are unemployed. They live in suburbans where all the others speak the same language or different other language, but no Swedish language are spoken. How can you know if the parents understand what you are saying? How can the parents help their children with the homework when they don't know? They can't read, they can't write, they have no Swedish language skills. And that's a real problem in Sweden and a real challenge for all teachers.
And of course, that has got to also to do with adjusting or adapting to the Swedish culture, which would be so very different from some of the cultures and traditions many of these children and their families come from.
Yes, that's right. It's really different. I mean, I've been working in many other countries. I know how different it could be. But of course, I mentioned, or you mentioned, perhaps pre-service teachers. Did you mention that? Or,
yes.
As I said, but you know, our university, preschool and school collaborate about the practical education in the teacher program. They must collaborate about it because the principal appoints one teacher to be responsive for to be some sort of on-site supervisor. And the university give courses and also invited to different days where when I work at another university, we have 2 days every semester where we invited all the on-site supervisor in the preschool and school, and we discuss new issues that were on the top agenda. What happened in the school. It could be like I could talk about reading and writing disabilities, for example. That's more my topic, or other could talk about mathematics skill. But we gave them some sort of more knowledge, and they could discuss it with us. And I think that's what we are doing. But of course, if you look out in the practical. When students go for the practical time at preschool or school, if the situation is very hard for the preschool teacher or primary teacher or whatever teacher there are, it's very hard to find a time and to find a good moment to discuss certain things that happen in the group. It could be problematic because if something happened right now between children on the floor, you must grab it direct and discuss it.
Yes.
But if you can do that, okay, you forgot it. And that's one of the problems I guess they have. It's a big problem when we have not certificated teachers in the classroom and in the school, even if many of them can be good. I have done a research with a colleague at another university about degrading treatment in preschool, and we see that also certificate preschool teachers as well as other staff, they treat children in a degrading way too often than we had any idea about. So we try to write an article about this. We give a presentation about it at OMEP conference and other conferences. And, when we talk about it, the audience, all of them recognize, because adults in many, many culture and whatever we are and what ages we look about, we treat children in a bad way sometimes. That's not a new knowledge. We know that we have done it for many, many. Parents can treat children bad, but also teacher can treat children bad. So we need to have more about ethical values, in the teacher program, much more about how to treat children in a good way, instead of talking about all the topics you have to learn. I think we need more about humanity, actually, in the teacher program as well, and when you also support. And I think also that if you have a lot of non-qualified teachers, the principal are responsible to also give some sort of mentoring, be a mentor or some sort of to support those teachers. But some principal are not, they don't do that. They are not as clever either. So it depends on.
Now, Ann-Katrin, from your experience, just relating perfectly to what you have just been talking about, I'm thinking about your experience working in several international partnership projects. One project was called, and I love this title, it's called Learning Community for Peace. Can you share what the project was about and what made you come up with this title, Learning Community for Peace?
Okay, I'm a member of Delta Kappa Gamma, that are an international association for female teachers in key positions. And we had a group about learning for peace. And that came actually from colleagues in Mexico and Costa Rica. In Mexico, because of all the drug dealers they have there. But also I had been working with it also in Europe, because I think we have too much of conflicts and fighting. So we must work, no matter if we are in Europe, Turkey, United States, or whatever, African countries, we must work with children from the beginning in preschool to learn them how to deal with conflicts, it's okay to have a conflict, but you must learn how to solve it. You must learn how to work with peace between each other, because if you can find peace in the classroom, it will be better for all. It will be more calm down. I'm good enough what I'm doing. My schoolmates, they like me. I can feel trust. I can have good self-efficacy when I'm here. So to have a more peaceful way of working in the classroom, every teacher. But if you listen to all the policymakers, whatever, there's a lot of conflict.
Yes.
They can't talk to each other. They are aggressive. They use a lot of bad words to each other. And if you also go out on a schoolyard and listen to some children when they talk to each other, you can hear that also there. Young children can say very aggressive, stupid word to other children. They can talk bad about each other. And you must learn children from the beginning not to do that. You must learn children to talk about each other in a very good way. And that's not easy.
How do you do that? Give me an example.
Yeah, you can do it by playing drama. You can use drama, for example, where you create a story about a person that spoke bad to another person, and then you can let the children discuss afterwards how can you do instead, and let the children be involved in it. And then you can also create some other type of narratives. The children have to solve it. You must involve the children. You can't just stand in the classroom and talk about it. You have to be peaceful. No, that doesn't work. You must do some drama, theater in another way. I think about the teacher, the old teacher, what's her name? Goodwill, Jane Goodwill. That she created the brown and blue eye in a classroom.
Jane,
have you looked at that?
You mean Jane, hang on a minute, Jane Elliott.
Yeah, perhaps the name is that.
Jane Elliott. I got a pod with her.
Yeah, that's right. And, I like her way, because she really created, in a few minutes, she had the blue-eyed to hate the brown-eyed.
Yes.
And I think that's a good picture about how you can work with drama, with put the children in a certain position, and let them feel how it is to be treated in this degrading way. I think that's a good idea, and I think teacher must have much more of drama in the classroom.
So what stops? But wait a minute. I mean, what stops teachers from doing it? Is it because they don't feel they have the power or autonomy to do it, or is it because they themselves lack the knowledge?
I think there's a lack of knowledge, absolutely. But I think most teachers are so, black and white in their own topic. I must do this in this 40 minutes. This is my lesson. I have mathematics skills now. This is what I need to do. Sorry to say about that. But because I think also to read books with different stories that could be about conflicts and discuss it after. I think teachers should read aloud. Also for high school students, they should choose different topics and then always discuss after, because children learn when they be involved.
And that is truly being included.
Yeah, this is truly included. And I actually don't know why teachers are so black and white sometimes. I don't know. Because I think preschool and primary teacher have more worked in this way as I talked about, to work more theater drama. But the higher up you came in the school system, the less you see of this. But I think today also many teachers in the earlier years, in the pre and primary, they have forgotten to work with this. Because it's so much of documentation, it's so much of grading children, it's so much of testing children, it's so much of other that the government have placed on each teacher. They must report, they must write a lot of documentation. And that takes time, of course. And also, not only time, it also make them it's boring to do that.
Exactly.
So perhaps many teachers, they lose their engagement, what it is to be a teacher.
And so they leave the profession.
Yeah, they leave the profession. If you look in the north of Sweden, many more teachers work in the mining.
Really?
Yeah, because they must. In Kiruna, for example, they have real problem to have teachers in the school because they've quit the school and they go and work with mining. They have earned much more money.
So what do they do in mining?
A lot of they work like ordinary. I don't know what they do. Work with machines, whatever. They dig in the.
What sort of differences or similarities between Sweden and some of the countries you have visited have you noticed how they support students with special needs? Something that's good and something that's not so good.
I think it's really hard sometimes to compare between countries because it depends also about the economic situation because it's a big variation. So in many countries like Kenya, for example, they know that there are no help to get, so they leave their newborn child in the forest to die because they know that the society will not help them. So if they see that there is something wrong, like Down syndrome with the child when they are newborn, they leave them out. And they do it in other countries also, not only Kenya. So I think if you look in preschool and schools, it could be some similarities. How much the staff try to make material, for example, to support. But also I think what's differ between different culture, because it's also about the culture, is also if you believe that these students can learn or not. Is it a punishment from God? Or the knowledge can be very low and lots of old knowledge. I mean, in one school in Pretoria, for example, the students who could walk, they helped those that couldn't walk to carry the lunch to them. And when I saw that, I was so impressed, because in children here, students here in Sweden, they got so much help from personal assistant. They don't need to carry their own food. Well, in South Africa, where they don't have that much money or resources, the children help each other. And in Turkey, for example, parents get some money pay for extra support. And one semester when I worked there with doctor students, I had a full day with some sort of speech therapies that parents paid for the children that have some speech and language impairment. And they have so all knowledge. They say that face massage was the only thing they did. So I have to give them a lot of material. I have to give workshop about how do you find the sounds in the mouth, etc., etc. So, and if you look in Belgium, Holland, Germany, etc., there's a lot of special schools. Like in Belgium, there's still 9 special schools for different disabilities, and still some boarding school. And I have been visiting many of those. For example, in Belgium, I have been visiting many schools that a lot of children could be included in a mainstream school. And they are working against inclusion more nowadays. They try to close down, but it takes time, There's so much. The teacher in the special school, they don't want to quit, of course not. And the teacher in the ordinary school, even if they, like in Turkey or Portugal or whatever, they know that they have inclusion in the school law, that the children, but in Turkey, the teacher can say, I know, but I will not have the children in my classroom. No. And the children doesn't enter her classroom because she said no. In Sweden, we can't do that. I can't say no to a child, because if the children live close to the school and are going to be in the school in my class, then I have to open the door and try to do the best. That's very different compared to many other. In United States, you will find more similarities with us and more inclusive schools and good competence among teachers. I mean, in United States and Canada, for example, you can also find some university where they have program for children with students with intellectual disability, for example, that I have met. And we tried in Gävle, that at Gävle University. We had money and tried it for 1 year. But, the staff at the university, they didn't like the idea. So it only was 1 year try. Sorry to say.
Sometimes I think it's, we'd like to say, yes, we're a teacher educator, but we want to do our own thing and we don't really care about teachers.
Yeah, that's like,
yes.
And we don't like everyone, because I think the biggest difference we have, but that's not only between countries and culture, that's only between teachers also in Sweden, is the values and the prejudices.
Yes.
There are more similarities wherever you are. I have met many, both principal teachers and assistants during I worked 30 years as a teacher, but 15 as a teacher in special needs. And I have a lot of negative talk and way of meeting the students. Like, they will never learn, they are stupid, they should be in a special school, what can they do here, etc., etc., etc. So, and also that many personal assistants is not good. They help too much. They help too much, so the children never learn to be independent.
That's right.
And they have no self-efficacy for themselves or for the students. So you can see there is a lot of things to do. So human being is similar no matter what sort of teaching education they work with. If they believe that the children have possibility to learn, if they have strong self-efficacy and self-confidence, the children will learn.
Yes.
And if not, the teacher should find other work to do. I used to say, I have supervised a lot of teachers in a team when I work as a teacher in special needs education. I have a lot of in the community to support other schools, teachers in school. And I used to say that if you only complain about the children, if you only talk negative about the parents and the children in the teacher, in the staff room, if you only complain and talk negative, then you can start to work on ICA or another food store, whatever. Because you can't talk bad about the customer in the food store, because then you will lose the customer. So you must behave positive to the customer, and you should do the same in the school. You should behave positive to the parents, positive to the children. You must like your own work as a teachers. And Lisa, sometimes I hear the same types of negative comments from teachers at the university about the students.
I know.
And that is, of course, very bad, because every teacher should talk positive about the students, no matter what they work, if it's pre-primary or university, whatever. They should talk about what they have learned instead of that they can't do,
Yes.
So one simple rule, but very hard for many teachers to follow, is no matter what type of school from they work within, is to talk positive about the students you have in front of you.
I can only agree with you. And
Yeah.
And I know, when you talk about positivity, you actually have a book out, or you've written chapters in it called, and the title of the book is, I love the title, Positive Special Education.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it's just such a brilliant title. So,
yes.
And that means that you together with some other authors of the book, including Monica Reichenberg, you believe truly with your hearts that teachers matter, and that education should be positive, regardless whether it's special education or education overall. But I just love absolutely love the title, and so I want you to share, why was the book written, and especially you wrote about your area of interest, and that relates to reading and writing, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. First of all, we were very tired of the medicine field, and today I think in many schools and many university, many program, the medicine field is strong again. It was strong during the 70s, and then we have had some years with more of pedagogical issues than medicine issues. But today we have a lot of logopeds, psychologists and whatever, and the medicine field, when that is so important with diagnosis,
yes,
have taken over again, and we don't like that, especially Monica Reichenberg and me. We didn't like that, so we would like to have more of education issues, pedagogical issues, whatever. So then we started to ask other people if they could be involved in our book and write a chapter about their positive way of working in different fields. And we had teacher from England, we have teacher from Norway, we have researcher from Norway and Sweden, and teacher from Sweden that give many good examples about their way of working, especially those that work with children with intellectual disability have given a lot of really good example how they believe that all children can learn no matter what problem they have.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the starting point, and then we continue to do that. And after that, we also have had it translated to English, taking away some of the Swedish chapter and put in some new from UK. And it was given out on Routledge in November last year. So we are very proud about this book. And we add theories, application, and inspiration to the title also. And my chapter about the Witting method, that's my research. I follow some teachers, very clever teachers, that really learned all children to read and write. No children fail. And what is important with that? Yeah, first of all, it was developed on the Swedish language structure. That's important because we have always imported from the English-speaking country before. So this was from Swedish. And the teacher in this method, they have good competence in the process of reading and writing, and also about self-efficacy. And the heart of the method is the content-neutral structures. It's a combination of vowels and consonants that conform the Swedish language. So they have some sort of attentive writing and structures. Children continue to find words. They don't use ready material, fill-in material. The children create their own material in this way of working, because they must find word that's starting on a certain sound that they have had written down in the attentive writing part of this method, the first part and the lesson. So they must find word in their own vocabulary and write them down. And after that, they share this word with the classmates, but they also create sentence, stories, songs, poems, and the performance with the songs, with the poems, with the stories. So all children learned new words from each other to build their own vocabulary, which are very important when we talk about reading and writing, that you have a big vocabulary. That's one of the problems we have with children that have other language background and have no big vocabulary in the Swedish language when they come to school. It's a big problem for them, of course, to follow the teaching in Swedish school system then. So the Witting method that I wrote about has a clear structure and a systematic way of working. And that includes also the teacher's documentation and follow up every student. Every student. So there is no failure. Everyone reached the reading and writing goals, but most of all with high level of self-efficacy. It's a whole, you can see this is a whole method that you don't only work with the small pieces in the language or whatever. You work with the whole children, you know. So you talk. So for one example is when the children start with this type of teacher that work with this, they also talk to the teacher about what they like to do when they have some time left over. So in this classroom, these children have a lot of other material. So if they have to wait for the teacher or if they finish early, they can take this. It's like Lego building, it's like puzzling, whatever. They can take a lot of material and instead of sitting and waiting and, you know, be a little bit out of concentration, they can create something. They can work with other things. And I think I like that idea, actually, that children, students, no matter what age they have, that they can have the feeling, I can do.
Yes, yes. What do you think of the idea of technology supporting kids learning a language?
I think technology, I am a good favorite of some, but it depends on how you use it, of course. I can take one example. When children with, or students with dyslexia have their own computer and they have a spelling program in the computer, the computer spell correct, so the students leave a correct document to the teacher. But I have met a lot of students in the age of 20, 25, 30 and interviewed them. And they say, I can't spell because the computer doesn't tell you how to spell and why you should spell. That you need a teacher to do.
And I think you just touched on the main issue when we talk about technology, whether it's ChatGPT, whatever digital tool you might use. And that is that before you can really understand the power of technology, you need to have the absolute grounding in your topic, whether it is the basic of understanding how you write, or how you build, how mathematics is being built, that you get a real sense that you're not starting from just looking at a whole bunch of symbols. But you actually, and that's where I think teachers often may actually think that why am I needed if we have these computers and these chat GPTs and whatever doing the work for me? But what they don't realize is that you and I, as educators, we are more needed than ever before, because there's so much rubbish being spit out by technology and social platforms, that it's quite scary. And so when you talk about these kind of like examples and how to inspire, and it is it is actually bringing teaching to what it is. It is not just putting on, if you like, I don't know, you put on the video and believe that the video will create students with lots of ideas.
That's right. To teach in a good way that children learn is actually a very, very clever skill that you need to have.
Yes.
It's not just enter the classroom and think you can just talk. You have a skill that you can engage the children, the students, that you can give a lot of inspiration to them to continue to learn. And if you look at the AI today, I'm go crazy when I look at the television. And the Swedish television use AI to write the text. And it's so much wrong. It's so much wrong. They spell it wrong. It's a lot of new words that I never heard about before. You can't find them in the Swedish language. So the AI creates a new vocabulary for Swedish language. So I think teachers are more needed than ever today in this way of technology that we have. And of course, we must teach the children how to use this in a good way. Not at least if you look about the gang criminality that we have that also create a lot of on Snapchat or whatever, that children are involved in different bad groups. You must teach children to be critical. You must teach children how to see the consequence of what they are doing with the digital tools.
Absolutely. Ann-Katrin, it's been absolutely wonderful to speak with you. And, I knew the time will just, an hour's gone.
I see it. My God, how could it go so quickly?
I know. And, and I'm sure we have so much more to talk about. And I hope that I can still invite you back another time for another talk. And let me just sincerely thank you for your time. And as I said, you have shared with me and the listeners really, truly valuable information, advice, and you are a true inspiration.
Thank you, Lisa, and thank you. I feel very honored to be invited to your discussion about this. So thank you very much.
And you have been listening to the podcast Sånt, livet, Sverige, or in English, That's Life, here in Sweden, with me, Lisa Åsimäki. Till next time, take care of yourself and each other. Bye for now.